4th Avenue to Techwood Drive, O'Leary to Key. It's WreckTalk!
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. Not a fun video to do today, but a video we have to do. We have to talk about this. I covered the Georgia speeding, reckless driving, loss of life incident. And my whole thing with that was, look, I mean, this is danger. People are dying. This is endangering the public. I even did a whole show where we talked about Josh Pate's thoughts on that. And when I did that, I said, look, if this ever happens at Georgia Tech, then I'll be the first one to call it out. And that's what I'm here doing. And I'm sure there'll be Georgia Tech fans that admonish me for this. Why are you talking about this? This is hurting the program, which, first of all, is hypocritical. And I'm not the one who did this, by the way. So first, we're going to talk about who, what happened, what they did, where they did it, and then I'll give you just my thoughts on the matter. So on October 18th, Josh Petty was arrested just outside, and this is another gut punch, of Athens, Georgia. Now, October the 18th is when we played Duke in Durham in that crazy game where we had the scoop and score. We beat them, whatever we beat them by. What was it, like 28-18 or something? And Josh Petty played in that game. So he plays in that game at noon. Game ends, come back from Durham, and then at 9:10 that night, he's arrested, and I even have it pulled up on Google Maps here, right outside of Athens, Georgia, at the intersection of Jimmy Daniel Road and 316. Now, I grew up in Winder, not far at all from here, so I've driven hundreds of times through this intersection. And I mean, this is just a few miles from downtown Athens. Here's Sanford Stadium. This red blip is where he was arrested, University of Georgia, right in there. So he's charged with 7 felony counts and 2 misdemeanors. Now, I don't want to get it wrong. This is coming from an AJC article that Chad Bishop wrote. It's behind a paywall, which in and of itself is bullshit in a dumb way that the AJC has decided to run their publication. Either way, 7 counts, the 7 felony counts are all unlawful for any person to purchase, possess, or have under his control any controlled substance. So I don't know how that's different from possession, if that's just what the legal definition in Georgia of possession is. The 2 misdemeanors are speeding. He was going 91 and a 65 on 316, and possession of a drug-related object. Now, on October the 27th, he pled guilty to the 2 misdemeanors. The 7 felony counts were dropped, and he was sentenced to 12 months probation and 40 hours of community service. So, my thoughts. First and foremost, dangerous and stupid. I don't know if it still is, but at one time I know 316 was the deadliest road in Georgia. Thousands and thousands of people's lives have ended on this road right here. And a bunch of people go 91 on 360. Don't care. You're going to kill someone. I'm assuming if you had drug-related paraphernalia on you, I'm assuming let me phrase it this way. You could have been intoxicated. If you were intoxicated, you're going to kill somebody. You're going to kill someone anyways, running 91 down 316. I don't know if he was intoxicated. If he was, even more so. Insane. Can't happen. Unacceptable. Secondly, though, this is an awful look for Josh Petty and Georgia Tech. And here's why. Josh Petty, the first 5-star of like the modern Georgia modern recruiting era, right? We were in a battle with him in Tennessee and Ohio State, I think, and we were able to get him. We paid him a massive NIL deal, probably the biggest NIL deal at the time for any Georgia Tech player in history. So he was this symbol of kind of the changing of the guard, that we were coming out of the dark ages and Georgia Tech was here to be, this prominent program, or that, hey, This ain't your granddaddy's Georgia Tech team. We can recruit now. We can recruit against the big boys. Success is coming. And unfortunately, this shits on all of that, right? This puts a massive sour taste in everyone's mouth about all that. And it's awful. I think in the article it said that Georgia Tech had taken disciplinary actions. His lawyer had made a statement. It says Georgia Tech Athletics has been aware of the situation since it occurred and immediately took disciplinary measures in accordance with the athletic department policy. Now, here's the thing that irritates me in sports is that policy is never public and the disciplinary action is never public. This is something I criticized Kirby at the University of Georgia for, and I'm equally going to criticize Brent Key depending on whether this happens again. My stance has been, look, if you say, hey, we're not going to throw this kid to the wolves publicly. We're handling this internally. We're taking action, yada, yada, yada. Fine. But it better not happen again. And if it does, then I think you got to separate from the team at that point, depending on what it is. But if you're saying you're handling it internally, then it needs to be handled internally and it doesn't need to happen again. I get he's a young kid. He's 18, 19, 20, however old the kid is. He was in high school last year at Fellowship Christian Academy. You cannot become a repeat offender of this. And there is a path forward. Look, I don't know if Josh Petty will ever watch this or if any of these players watch my channel or if they care. I know some of their parents do. I've made awful, awful decisions in my youth before, and there was a price to pay for it. Now, people weren't making YouTube videos about it, but I also wasn't getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do my job. And if I were arrested now, people definitely wouldn't be making videos about it. So I'm in the same boat. But that's the other thing, that he's getting paid all this NIL money. I don't know how these contracts work. I imagine they're heavily swayed toward the athlete at this point in the NIL era of college football. But you're going to have a lot of tech people mad at you, man. You're going to have a lot of tech people mad at you. And I even wonder, does this create some kind of dissent in the team possibly? Because let's say like I'm Joe Fusel or something. I came in as a walk-on. I've been busting my ass. I'm doing things the right way. I'm staying clean. And then this guy who's making way more money than I'm ever going to make at Georgia Tech is out here getting arrested outside of Athens and charged with 7 felonies. Like, I might feel some kind of way about that. Now, what I think, I don't know what's happened. They probably did this. Georgia Tech should have immediately given him a drug test then. And it's not to beat this kid in the ground or anything. That would be like, okay, let's see what you test positive for, because this makes me think of Darren Waller a little bit. I'm not saying he's Darren Waller. I'm not saying he has a problem. Not saying any of that. But Darren Waller is at Georgia Tech. A lot of people had them high on their draft board. He was a wide receiver, ended up being one of the better tight ends in the league when he was in the NFL, and he fell hard in the draft. People were thinking, man, what? Coaches who were looking to draft him were thinking, man, what's wrong with this kid? And look, when people are investing millions of dollars in you, they're going to find out the skinny, and they found out he had a drug problem. He ended up having to go to rehab, and to his credit, made a huge comeback, got clean, and was very successful. My thing would be drug test him, see what he tests positive for if I'm Georgia Tech, to see if we need to get him some help. That's the other thing. Like, if you do have a problem, let's get you some help, man. That's not the end of the world. Plenty of people have had issues with this kind of thing and have come out stronger on the other side. And I don't know how Georgia Tech handled Darren Waller, but something tells me we looked the other way with that because he was playing good football for us. And that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And that should not happen with this kid. Now, setting that aside, disciplinary actions, and this is kind of a political answer, admittedly, I would say he's done for the rest of the year. What that does is it shows you you're taking it seriously, but admittedly, it's not hurting you as a team, right? Which I'm sure is how it would be viewed. Now, he didn't play against Syracuse. I'd have to go back and look as to whether he played since then. I would think not, but he should be done for the rest of the year. And then maybe even put him on scout team. Like, look, you're going to be on scout team. You're going to have the shittiest jobs for the rest of the year, or something like that. Now, there is a Tuesday press conference. I'm recording this on Monday, November the 3rd. Next day, there will be a press conference. Key should be asked about this. And Key gets testy about things sometimes. He's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes he'll be jovial and tell weird jokes. He gets real testy when you ask him about like the consistency of play. Like, we don't show up for a half. He gets super testy about that. Starts talking about shoving battery packs up people's asses and cattle prods, which is weird. But he needs to address this. And if he gets testy, then I'm going to be critical of that. I mean, and again, the protocol is we talked about earlier in the video, like, hey, we're handling this internally. We'll have to see, but he does need to be asked. Now, if you're Josh Petty, this sucks, right? The Tech fan base is mad at you. It's embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. I get it. It's embarrassing. You're a higher profile athlete at Georgia Tech. There's an AJC article about this. But there's a path forward. People are selfish and have short attention spans. So if you just put this behind you and don't make this mistake again and just lock in at doing the right thing and not getting in trouble and doing your job as a football player, 3-4 months from now, no one's going to be talking about this. They'll forget. They'll move on to the next thing. But, and this is a misery back guarantee that I've had to live through myself via my own dumbass decisions. When you keep hitting the repeat button on dumbass decisions, boy, those consequences get painful. They get real painful. So that's kind of my take on this. It is a bad look for Georgia Tech. It is a bad look for Josh Petty. I hope the best for the kid. It kills me that he, made the decision to go out there and endanger people. But again, I hope the best for him. Let me know what you think in the comments about this situation. And also, not that I'm trying to, look, if you're guilty, you should be prosecuted. If you're ever in this situation, though, this is not legal advice and I'm not a lawyer, but this is what you should do. Do not ever consent to a field sobriety test. Do not ever consent to any field sobriety test or breathalyzer. Now, you pay for that by having your license suspended for a year in the state of Georgia, but a police officer can make you fail a field sobriety test at any point they want. Do not give them consent to search your vehicle. Although they can search your vehicle whenever they want. They can get a dog come out. They can make it hit whenever they want. They can get a warrant for your blood, etc. But do not make a statement. You do not have to say anything other than, I don't answer questions. And I would like to talk to a lawyer. That's all you have to say. Anyways, again, not legal advice. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You guys have a good one.